Okay, happy sixth period on a Friday, Lakers. I want to quickly go over with you what I expect you to do. Remember, we are working on the automata design problem, and the way you work from your neighbor may be totally different, but we all, at the end of the assignment, the end of the project, need to have everything accounted for. So I just want to review and show you some examples of how I've started that. So the first thing I'll do, right, is remember there is a rubric that I'm following, and I have actually finished all of part one up to level 5, and there's an example that I put on the whiteboard. You can look and sort of see how I did mine. And I'll quickly go over the ideas in this case. So remember, the first thing we start off with is we start off with an idea. So mine was cross-country skiing, Darth Vader, and I've put a little bit on here. I put the motion, his arms and poles are going to move up higher, his heels are just going to move a little bit, right? So that's my idea, that's my theme. On my example for this, you'll notice then that for level 2 and 3, there's some writing involved. So here's my picture with a couple annotations. Here's the writing for level 2. And here's the writing for level 3. And again, that's going to be posted on the board for you to check out in more detail. So that part is squared away. So what happened then between this and here? How do I make my cams? Well, remember, you might need to go back to Project Lead the Way 4.6 to review that. But my solution looked like this. So if you remember, what we did is we plotted a motion graph. So here, this is a rough draft, of course. This is my vertical motion of what I want on the top of the box. So I have a line talking about the vertical position of the arms and the poles and the vertical position of the heels. This down here is the rotation of the axle. So it goes from 0 to 360, one rotation. So I want my arms to start off low and have a big change of height and then come back down here. And I want my heels also to start off at a low position and then grow in height a little bit and then come back. But obviously that change in height is different. This needs to be done first. This is step one. You do not start thinking, oh, mine's going to be an eccentric or a snail cam. You're going to make the cam based on the motion that you're describing, the motion that you want. So this has to come before you make the cam. How do you make the cam? Let me show you. All right, so this is the cam that I made for the heel cam, or the heels rather, that's going to control the heels. So what did I do here? You'll notice now these are polar coordinates. So we have 0 degrees and then 45 all the way through a full rotation back up to 360. And the little tiny rings, the concentric rings, those are eighths of an inch. So they went from the center point, 0, to 8/8 all the way up to 16/8 and everything in between. So that's why this, I've incremented the vertical axis in eighths of an inch because I think that's going to be the simplest way to do it. Then all I need to do is decipher this graph into polar coordinates. So what did I do? Well, each one of these lines, this is 15 minutes or 15 degrees, this is 30 degrees, that's 45. So I took a value somewhere in there. So 15 degrees is right here, and that was about 5/8 it looked like, a little over, maybe a little over 4/8. So that's right here. So we produce the shape of the cam from this graph. So our idea became a graph, and then the graph becomes the shape of the cam that we want. That's the order that you want to move in. So make sure we don't go backwards. Don't just say, I'm going to start with a snail cam, right? No, we're starting with an idea. We're making a cam achieve that idea. So at that point, you should be able to, by the end of today, sort of come up with your idea, come up with what your cam shapes are. A couple other things you might want to work on during this period then. For some of the other parts of the rubric, like the CAD rendering, maybe you're going to start some of that and you'll come back to the writing or something like that. You won't probably start any of the final assembly, the final working product yet, but you might start some of this, and you can see some of mine that was done. So I actually have already achieved up to at least a level 4 on that. I made all these parts from scratch. They were so easy, such simple parts to make and put into the assembly. I didn't bother trying to look for old files. I just made them, and you can see, right, the followers follow that axle just like I want it to, follow the cam rather, and they're more or less producing the motions that I want. You can see the arms have a big displacement and the heels have a much smaller one. So you may also then spend some time today, depending upon the way you choose to make the flow go, um, rendering some of the parts in Inventor. Just make sure you give yourself time to save and put away the computer properly. All right, I will check your work when I get back on Monday. Have a good Friday and a good weekend. Bye.